Hello, welcome to what will be the last video lesson for what has been an extremely challenging term. We've gone from regular one lesson per week at school kind of music lessons to full-time online lessons for all of the students, and there was very little, I think there was probably 2 or 3 days in the way of transition time in which to do that. So I hope the videos that have gone out in the last couple of weeks have been useful to you. It's been admittedly a lot of work and overcoming a lot of technical challenges to get that content out to you. But if the other option is that you just don't touch your instrument even if you wanted to, then it is well worth it to have plenty for you to be playing and having fun with. Obviously, I recognize that there are still so many families that are under immense pressure, meaning that there are people who just don't have space in their lives to play their musical instrument right now. That is fine. This stuff is not being tested. This is material that those who are in a position to be playing their instrument can be playing. And hopefully it's a bit enjoyable. Having said that, today's topic, which goes out to all the students from beginner through to high school, today's topic is a bit like eating your vegetables in some ways. It's going to be a bit tricky for beginners because you need to actually play notes, and when I last saw you 3 weeks ago, that's still pretty tricky for a lot of you. In the meantime, I've heard videos in which you've played lots of wonderful notes, so I'm not so worried about that now. For continuing players, playing these notes is not going to be the tricky thing. It is developing your listening skills and matching it up with what you see on the page, or in this case, on YouTube. So the very first thing you need to do is, in another browser tab, you need to open up the video in the description box below that matches up best with your instrument. If you are a trumpet player, you want to click the first video that has the play and response exercises for trumpet. If you are a baritone or euphonium player, you want to click the second video that has the play and response exercises for euphonium. And if you are a trombone player, you're clicking the third one. The actual content of the lessons is the same, but you get to hear someone playing your exact instrument do all these exercises and get to work along with them. You will also hear a lot of kind of clicking noises going along, firstly to set the tempo so you're ready and feeling the beat for what you're about to hear. But secondly, they kind of double up on the echoing, the job that you get to do to kind of keep you in time and give you an idea of how it should be going. If you are an experienced player and you recognize these 3 things, this only applies to baritone and trombone people. If you recognize those, you can skip ahead about 2 minutes. If you are a beginner player and you don't recognize these or what that means, then keep watching for the next 2 minutes. 2/4, really easy. That is telling us that the music, instead of being broken up into little sections, bars of 4 counts, is going to be broken up into little sections of 2 counts. So instead of counting in like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then playing, the count in would be 1, 2, play. Or they might even do that twice. 1, 2, 1, 2, play. In this case, I think they just give you some click sounds. This symbol here that looks like a semibreve that we learned in our last lesson, looks like a semibreve but has a stick on it like a crotchet. This is called a minim. It goes for 2 counts. You might know that already. If you do, great. If you don't, well, now you do. One of these, play and hold for 2 counts. Now this is the tricky thing. For baritone and trombone players who read bass clef music, what you're going to see on the flashcards as we do these exercises with the video is a stave with the bass clef. That's normal, we recognize what that is. But instead of putting flat signs in front of individual notes, for example the note E, they don't put a flat sign right in front of the E. They put a flat on the B line at the very beginning, and they put a flat in the E space, the 3rd space up, at the very beginning of each line. And basically what that is telling you is that if you see any B or E notes in these patterns, you need to play them as flats, which is what we already do. So if there were any Bs in these, and there aren't, if there were any Bs, they would be first position or open valves, low buzz. If there are any Es, they are played as E flat, which we know is 3rd position or first valve for baritone. The fancy name for this, when you put the flat signs at the beginning of the line instead of putting them in front of the notes as you go along, the fancy name is a key signature. So if I said, oh, find me the key signature in this line of music, you would find the flats that were put at the start of the line to tell you which notes you needed to play as flats. If I said, find me the clef is the squiggly thing that tells you if it's for a high instrument, treble clef, or a low instrument, which is bass clef. That's what we're looking at here. And if I said, find me the time signature is the 2-4 or the 4-4 sign. And that comes after your key signature. So it goes clef, key signature, flats, or sometimes sharps for trumpet players. And then after that, they would have a 2-4 or a 4-4, telling you whether the music is broken up into 2-count chunks or 4-count chunks. Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm going to hit play on the start of the trombone video. I've got the trombone one here, but once again, when you're going through this yourself, being very dedicated to your craft and increasing your skills, even though it might seem a bit boring, when you're going through this yourself, watch the one that matches up with the instrument you play. Baritone players, you click the euphonium one, because euphonium's just the big brother of the baritone, and they sound quite similar. Let's have a listen to the start of the trombone video.
Trombone, one tone call and response. The tone is concert D. Ready? Listen.
All right, I'll pause it there for a moment. So the very first exercise, this is super straightforward. All of the notes are Ds for trumpets. That means you guys are playing E. Baritones, you're on D as well. They will play you a short pattern. There's no written music at all. It is just using your ears to memorize what they play and play it straight back without a gap. So if they go ta, 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 you play that immediately straight back. To, to, to. And it continues to cycle through. If you don't get it 100% correct, that doesn't matter. Maybe the next day you will. The next exercise on here is where they add in some flashcards. Now this is like if you were learning Japanese or something and you had to memorize the letters of their alphabet, hiragana or katakana, they might have flashcards that the teacher shows you, and then you have to say, ooh, that's whatever letter it is, or whatever symbol it is. In this case, it's the same game, but as you play your response, ta, 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 play, 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 as you're playing, they will show you what it looks like in written music. So I'm going to let this run a little bit and then we'll fast forward to the next section. Let's have a listen. Sadly, I can't pick up the computer to show you right now because it's also recording the sound from the microphone. And then there are a few more of those. You could even treat this the same way we've treated many of our kind of call and response. That's a fancy name for this, where you listen to your teacher do something and then you copy it back. These call and response exercises, you could treat these the same way that we did in class. You could do it on your mouthpiece first. You could do it as a wind pattern where you're blowing onto your hand and listening to make sure you're getting a t sound. And then you can put it onto your instrument and really imagine what your embouchure, your lip muscles, are going to be doing to get a nice clear sound. All right, I'm going to fast forward to the one with the flashcards. It's going to sound for you exactly the same, but they're showing a picture of what it looks like on the screen. Then the picture. This would have been much more fun to watch if we still had a functioning camera and I wasn't having to use my phone as a camera, because then I would just hold it up and you could see how the music or the written music of what you're playing pops up at the moment that you start playing it. Let's whiz ahead now. The third exercise that you'll find another minute or so into the piece is Ready, now look and play. That instruction means that they are going to play you something. At the last split second, they will pop up the flashcard so you can see what it looks like, and you have to look at that and play back what they played. So they'll go, ta, ta, ta. Flashcard pops up, goes away, showing you what it looks like, training your brain, and then you copy it back. It's pretty straightforward. The fourth one is the same game. So play, listen, see the flashcard for a moment, play it back. Same game, but with no breaks. So as soon as you stop playing your echo, the next one begins. And once again, at the end of it, they flash up the flashcard so you can see what it looks like. You're getting a visual input as well as just oral listening. And then you play it back. Then, at about 3 minutes 45 on the video, and I'm going to fast forward to that, you get the very first exercise again, which is listen and play back with no written music, but it's going to involve 2 notes that time. I'm going to skip ahead to there. Let's hear what they call it.
Response. The starting tone is concert and play. Trombone. 2-tone call and response. The starting tone is concert D. Ready? Listen.
Play, play. And I'm going to pause it there for a moment. So let's talk to our trumpeters for a sec. Hopefully the trombones have been watching that and they know what's going on. Instead of just using the note D to play back the music, they also have to use the note E flat in 3rd position. So baritone people, you've got lots of Ds, 1 and 2. You should be experts at that by now because you've just played 10 minutes of them. And you are then adding in E flat with 1st valve. Listen, work out which notes are the higher E flat one and which ones are the Ds. Once again, this will take practice over many days to get good at it. And then play it back straight away. For trumpets, most of your notes so far have been E's. What note is 1 step up from E? Hopefully you're all thinking about Ode to Joy at this point. E, E, F, G. The next higher note for you guys will be F, and it actually says that in a little kind of title screen that comes up. You've got 2 tones, E and F. Same thing. Listen, work out if they're playing low, 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 or higher, higher, higher. Work out whatever combination it is of those 2 notes, play it back. And it goes through the same process again, just listening first, listen, play back. Then you have listen, play back, and see what it looks like in written music. So they'll put it up on the stave for you to look at as you're playing it back. Then you've got listen with a little flashcard that pops up, and then play it back. So you're kind of mentally linking what you heard with how it looks on the page, and then you play it back. And then they do the one where it's the same thing, but it's just go, go, go without stopping. The end point, or the end goal for this, is that you can keep up with the that final stage where you just get to see the music for a split second, and combined with your listening skills, you play it back correctly and get through all 8 patterns. When you're at that point, you no longer need to practice this. You are then an expert at this exercise. That might take you a few weeks though, but that's okay because learning music is a long process, long and rewarding process that allows you to do much more fun stuff. Not surprisingly, the final kind of section of this, you've got 3 sections. First section is that process using just your first note, which is D for trombones and E for trumpet, 4th position D. Then the second section is the same process that we just talked about using 2 notes, or 2 tones as they call it. E and F for trumpets, D and E flat, small movement to 3rd for trombones. Final section is they add on the next note as well. And now we're really working with that first 7 or 8 notes of Ode to Joy. Ta, ta, ta. You're kind of working all the way up to that G. Think about how your lips are going to feel for that, and fast, smooth air. Trombones and baritones, our bass clef people. That's a pretty ugly bass clef. It's all right. We started on D. The step up will be E flat, and your highest note will be F in first position. Open valves for baritone, tense lips. Awesome. Last thing I need to talk about in this video, because really you can just stick on some headphones and go and do it now, but we're going to skip to the very end, which is about 13 minutes and 40 seconds. Have a listen to this.
Trombone, 3-tone melodic pattern reading, prep sequence, set A. The starting tone is concert D.
So for trombones, this pattern is going to start on D. Trumpets, when you're listening to yours, it'll say the starting tone is, or it might say concert D, which means trombones are playing a D, or it might say the starting tone is E, which would mean you're starting on E. You're going to start on E. Let's have a listen.
Ready? Ready? Now, look and play. Ready? Now, look and play.
I'm going to pause him there because you will have noticed that there is no demo at all. They just expect you to look at the flashcard and play the notes. So what they've done is they have started out by getting you to focus on listening and attuning your ears to the notes of your instrument. Then they have brought in the visual aspect with the flashcards where they showed you what you were playing, and then they showed you before you had to play it and expected you to be able to read it and work it out. And now they are at the final stage, which is you don't get to hear it at all. You have to hear it in your head. You have to imagine what they show you in the flashcard. So if they show you ta, 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 you have to look at that and you immediately recognize that pattern, crotchet, minim, the not colored in one. But then also you're looking at where the notes are placed on the stave to know how they should sound. So you are really translating something that is only visual, that you're seeing with your eyes, into a sound in your head and then putting it onto your instrument. This is as complex as it sounds. But in terms of actually playing it, if you have steadily worked through a bit of this each day, and over the course of 2 weeks, you have got to the end of this whole exercise, whether you're a beginner or an experienced player, maybe if you're experienced, this will be less than 2 weeks' work. You have really set yourself up well for your entire musical career. Because that process of being able to look at something on a page and to be able to hear it in your head and sing or play it, that is vital for musicians, at least on musical instruments that read notes. And I want you to have the ability to read notes. It is a very useful skill and makes you very valuable regardless of what instrument you're playing. So there we go. The new concepts were for low brass players. The key signature is when they stick the flat signs at the start of each line of music instead of putting them in front of the exact notes. And the position of the flat tells you what note it affects. B flat and E flat. Any Bs will be B flat, any Es will be E flat. We've talked about minims, not coloured in, have a stick coming off them, go for 2 counts. And we talked about the 2/4 time signature that doesn't fit on there but would come after the key signature. 2/4 meaning 2 counts in each bar, or the music is kind of divided up into 2 count sections. That should be heaps to keep you going. If you have a proper break over the holidays, the official school holidays for the next 2 weeks, and don't do any playing, no problem. But you will need to get started with this as of the official start of term 2. And you will need to stick with it a few minutes a day until you can do the entire thing. There is a reason I say it's like eating your vegetables, because for some people, they don't love certain vegetables, but the vegetables make them stronger. This is the musical equivalent. I need you to do it. Good luck. I hope you have a little bit of fun with it. Maybe you'll blitz it. Let's find out.